Hey everyone, welcome back to Homegrown Passion. In my last video, I showed you how I set up my Bato bucket system with the drain lines and how far apart the Bato buckets are. Well, in today's video, I'm going to trellis the tomato plants I planted. I am going to get the Dosatron system set up, and I'm going to formalize the nutrients. So stay tuned. Boy, is it dark in the greenhouse today. It's a rainy, foggy day. All the snow's melting, so it's really good to be inside. So I wanted to show you the bobbins I use to trellis the tomatoes and the pepper plants. These things are only 50 cents each, so it's really easy to replace them because there's not much cost to them. I've tried before to use different ones that have biodegradable string, which is good for the environment, but they always break on me. When the tomato plants get so big and you're trying to lean and lower them and they break, it's just not good. So it's better off just getting these 50-cent bobbins and using them. And these little tiny tomato plants, by the end of the season, they're going to be about 40 feet long. So you want to make sure you have enough twine on your bobbin to support them all the way as they go around the whole Bato bucket system. So I have my little step stool, makes it easy to get up and down here so I can reach. And so I take my bobbins, wind the twine, get it down, not to the floor because you don't want to waste it, but at least down to the top of the perlite in the bucket. A little one more. There we go. Let me get the other one. Since I have 2 pepper plants in each bucket, got to have 2 bobbins. Yep, a little bit more. There we go. And let me come down and I'll tell you how we're going to do our pepper plants this year. It's a little bit different than last year. Well, I dropped the bobbins down to the peppers, but I'm not going to trellis them quite yet. I'm going to do something a little different this year than what I did last year. Last year, I let the pepper plants get too bushy and I didn't have nice big peppers. So this year, I'm going to the 2-stem technique. So once the pepper plant starts branching out, I'm going to keep it at 2 stems the whole time as it keeps growing up. And I'll be able to get a lot bigger, nice bell peppers, with all the different colors I'm doing, the red, the yellow, and the orange. So I'm really excited about doing that this year. So the best way to clip your plants to your trellis system is with a vine clip. And these things are pretty cool. They're inexpensive. They wrap around the string and you just snap them together and you put this underneath the leaves of the stem and it'll hold your plant up and it won't move around. Let me show you the placement of the vine clip. You place it right underneath the leaf node, clip it to the string, and it holds the plant up really nice. And look at this guy's already got some flowers on him. So I'm doing something a little bit different this year. I usually do it out in the high tunnel, but I decided to do it in the greenhouse because I want to do some canning this spring. So these are determinate Amish paste tomatoes. So they're not going to grow like my indeterminate slicing tomatoes. So these guys are going to get big and bushy. So I'm going to end up putting more than one trellis down for each plant because you know how big they're going to get. And then once I'm harvested, because they all should come right within a short period of time, these guys are going to be pulled out before my market season starts. So now that I have all the tomatoes trellised up, the one thing I really want to do is put my yellow sticky tabs out here to monitor for pests because their plants are all nice and new. It's wintertime and I want to make sure I don't get any aphids or whiteflies or anything bad on these plants. So let me go grab them. So I keep my yellow sticky tabs in this cabinet so I know where they're at year after year. And I still got quite a few left, so let's go put them out. So I buy these in packets, and one time I bought a huge box of them because, in the summertime I like to put a bunch of them out, maybe 50 at a time, just to keep monitoring. They're all sticking together here on me. So they're double-sided sticky, and then you just peel off the paper, and there's one little spot here that doesn't have any stickiness on it, so I like to date it so I know when I put it up and how long it's been up to see how many bugs are on it. So let me put today's date on there. Can't believe it's 2025. And I just go ahead and just pull off one side. Oops. Pull off the other side. So now it's all ready to go. And I just take one of my clips I use on my nutrient lines for the NFT channels and just stick it on the Bato bobbin there, and it just kind of floats around, and the bugs, if there's any on there, are attracted to the yellow and they'll be sticking to it then. So the sticky tabs I'm using are manufactured really close to me in Medina, Ohio by olsonproducts.com, and like I said, I've had these ones for a couple years and they're still really nice and sticky, and they give you kind of instruction to what to do, and most of the time you just want to make sure you keep the tab just above the plant canopy because that's where all the bugs like to congregate and you'll catch them. Now that I have all the bobbins dropped, let's go get the Dosatron system set up for the nutrient delivery. So here's one of my Dosatrons. I use the Dosatron system for my strawberries, my vine crops, and for my flowers up at the house. And I use the same one for all of them. And it's the D14M. And the reason I like that model is because you can change the dosage, make sure you have your EC correct. Because some of the smaller models, it's at a preset number and you can't change it. And I like to adjust it because sometimes, the strawberries are way different than what you want for the tomatoes and the EC. So you want to be able to, you can adjust it. So like I said, at the end of the season, I like to take them apart, kind of wash them up, check the O-rings, make sure there's no crud on them and calcium buildup, and just get them all ready for the next time to use because it's so much easier when it's all nice and clean and you want to get it set up. So the Dosatrons are really easy to take apart. You just unscrew them, clean everything up, and then screw them back together. Have it all put back together, just one more piece. Here's our Dosatron system in place. We use unions to take it apart and put it back together. It's so much easier than using couplers. And we have a 3-part system, so we have 3 Dosatrons. The first one is for the macronutrients, the second one is for the micronutrients, and the third one is for the pH adjust. And then everything is taken into the mixing pot. And then we have our EC and pH probe right here so we can monitor everything. Then it goes through a filter, and after it goes through the filter, it's sent out to the Bato buckets out there in the greenhouse. And the pH and the EC probe are then, you can see the little wires go up to our Blue Lab Guardian, so I can keep a track, what our pH is, and I got the pH adjust in there already, so it's about 6.3. I want about 6.0, so I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit. I don't have the nutrients in my blue barrels yet for the EC, so it's 0.04, because that's just what the water is. And then it also tells me the water temperature, which is 54. That's because it's nice and cold outside. So here are the barrels for the nutrients. The water being so cold at 54 degrees, I went ahead and filled these guys up a couple of hours ago so it would come up to room temperature because it's so much easier to mix the nutrients in warm water than cold water. I already have everything all weighed out, so let's go get them. Well, I have my nutrients right here, A and B, or 1 and 2, however you want to number them. I already went and had measured them out because I buy everything in 50-pound bags in bulk, and I usually buy enough for a whole year. This way I can go pick it up and I don't have to pay for shipping. And then I have a really nice scale. It's about a 50-pound scale because the heaviest or most nutrient I use is calcium nitrate. And here, let me tell you all the different nutrients that I have in these 2 buckets here. So like I said, it's calcium nitrate, potassium nitrate, chelated iron, magnesium sulfate, potassium sulfate, monopotassium phosphate, and a micromix. And the micromix is the really tiny, minute amounts of different minerals, and those are manganese, boron, copper, zinc, and molybdate. So that's everything that goes into my formula. Now my formula was crafted by a horticulturalist at Crop King because everybody always asks me, oh, give me your formula, give me your formula. I said, I can't do that because it's a proprietary material because it's based on my source water. And Crop King does the formulas for you for a nice small fee of $200. I mean, it sounds like a lot in the beginning, but I've been using the same formula for 10 years for my lettuce, and it's been working out really well. And it's a lot cheaper for me to buy everything in bulk, and if you're on a little bit larger scale, I think it's the best way to go. And you get everything tweaked right to your source water. And if I'm having any issues, if my plants aren't looking good, or I think something's not quite right, I give them a call, and the horticulturalist will look at my nutrient formula and say, well, add a little bit of this, or take a little bit of this off, and it's amazing how just a little bit of adjusting makes your plants just look wonderful. I always get the question of why do I have 2 tanks for my nutrients, the A and B? Why don't I just mix them all together and just have one Dosatron? Well, you don't want to mix your calcium with your phosphorus because then you'll have calcium phosphate, which is salts, and that will clog up your Dosatron and all your lines and everything else and just make a big mess. So it's better to have the 2 tanks so you don't have any interaction with the nutrients. Nutrients is such a science. I mean, you can spend hours and hours on it going in depth into all the reactions together and how the plants uptake them. And like the EC, if the EC is too high, it doesn't take up the nutrients, and how the iron doesn't stay soluble in the water, and you got to always add some iron. I mean, it's something you can spend hours and hours on, and I am far from the expert, so that's why I call Crop King, and they answer all my questions for me. I'm talking about EC. I use EC and not TDS. EC is electrical conductivity and TDS is total dissolved solids, which the total dissolved solids is an estimate and the EC is the actual amount of nutrients in the water. Okay, let's go get the nutrients mixed into the blue barrels. I think the water should be warm enough and then we can turn on the Dosatron system. So the uptake tube for the Dosatron has a nice little screen at the end of it and it's weighted so it stays down at the bottom of the barrel, and this way you don't have to worry about any of the solids getting sucked up into your Dosatron and screwing it up. So here's tank A or tank 1, mixing the nutrients, and don't have the water all the way up to the top so I have enough room to drop the nutrients in. Just kind of pour them in slowly. There we go. And then I mix them up, and people always laugh I use a pipe, but it works good. And it just takes a little bit of stirring, and they'll start dissolving. And once I get most of it dissolved, I'll go ahead and top the tank or the barrel off with water to get it up to the correct level. And then after a while, I'll come back maybe an hour later and just give it one more stir and make sure everything is totally dissolved. Okay, I have all the nutrients mixed up. I just need to get the micronutrients for tank 2 or tank B and get those mixed in too. Here are the micronutrients. These are measured in grams. So we have a special little scale that we use to measure them out. And go ahead and put them into the tank B. Now in the wintertime, since all the plants are nice and little and it's not too hot out, these 2 tanks of nutrients and the pH adjust should last me about 6 weeks. Once the plants get big and it's hot in there and they're cranking and producing a lot of fruit, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks for the tanks to last. So just to give you an idea how often this has to be done. So I have the iron measured out. That is in ounces, and that goes into tank 1. And it's so cool how it makes the water turn orange. Now watch this. Well, now that we have all the plants in the Bato buckets, the bobbins dropped, the nutrients going, we turned on the lights. And I had the lights coming on from 5 in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, and they're at 70%. And this feature with my controller has a really cool thing that if it gets up to 85 in the greenhouse, which I set it to, that means the sunshine's coming in, it'll actually dim the lights down to 11%. So you don't need them that bright when the sun's on. So that's a really good feature. Got the heat going, got all my 4 heaters have been running constantly with the cold weather that we had. So right now I'm keeping the greenhouse at night. It's around 63. It may be a little too cold for the tomatoes, but it's really hard for all the heaters to keep up when it's minus 15 outside. And then during the day, I do have it cranked up to about 73. So it makes it so nice to come in and work in here. So I think I'm going to end the video here. And I hope you guys liked it. And I hope it was a little bit informative. And like always, please leave me questions, comments, and suggestions down below. And we'll see you guys next time.